Good morning, Nigeria. Welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you from the nation's capital in Abuja. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Good morning, Ayuba. Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for joining us. My name is Stella Iyaji. Ayuba, it's good to be alive today, right?
Yes, it is at a time like this. Yesterday we saw one of the biggest upsets in world football history, where we are seeing Saudi Arabia defeating Argentina. How did that come to you?
Ayuba, do you know what I was thinking yesterday? If at any point you thought there was something that was not possible, yesterday.
I mean, I recall yesterday.
yesterday.
On the morning show, yesterday you were talking about.
If anybody had asked me to bet, I would have lost. Because if you ask me Argentina, Saudi Arabia, I'll give it to Argentina straight up. I wouldn't even think about it, you know. Well, it just shows you that if you're determined, you can get something. Because, you know, what I saw yesterday was that the Saudi Arabia, the Argentines were like, oh, it's Saudi Arabia. That's what I think. You know, they felt.
So perhaps they felt.
You know, but then Saudi Arabia came with the fire. They were like, they were going against one of the, you know, football powerhouses. Do you understand? So because of that, I think they came ready to fight.
I would say a classic example of David defeating Goliath in this case. Because, I mean, look at it, Argentina. We are talking about the third, you know, in the ranking of football.
Yes.
And, you know, you have Saudi Arabia that is down there, somewhere around.
When I'm talking football, I don't call Saudi Arabia. Like, do you understand? When I'm talking football, I don't talk Saudi Arabia. And this is the first non-European country that is beating Argentina since 1990.
And that perhaps is what is causing the King of Saudi Arabia to declare a public national holiday in the country. I mean, it's a great achievement.
I think for them it's not just about, because some people may say, a public holiday just after one game. For them, it's not one game. For them, is we beat Argentina.
Yeah.
And Messi was there.
And that's one thing with football, you know, you never really can say sometimes. As much as we do all these predictions, sometimes that's why you see tickets cutting everywhere. But then that's it with football. There must be a winner and a loser at the same time. Now, let's take a look at the headlines for today that we are dealing with. Buhari unveils a redesigned Naira note today.
Court orders INEC to resume voter registration.
FG debunks claim of international passport booklets shortage.
Now let's take a look at the details. Minister of Interior Gbeni Rauf Aregbesola has debunked claims that Nigeria's international passport booklets are in short supply. Aregbesola made this statement at the 4th edition of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration Scorecard 2015 to 2023 series organized by the Ministry of Information and Culture. The Scorecard series was launched by the ministries to showcase the achievements of the present administration. The minister gave the assurance that enough booklets are available for those who had applied for passports and had been captured or were yet to be captured. He further said that the government stopped the 24-hour passport services because of the criminalities and sharp practices involved in it. The minister added that the minimum period for processing a passport in Nigeria is 6 weeks to allow the appropriate authority to carry out diligent security checks. Aregbesola added that the real challenge with the passport application process is the bottleneck in the processing system.
A federal high court in Abuja on Tuesday ordered the Independent National Electoral Commission to immediately resume continuous voters registration until 90 days before the 2023 general elections. Justice Inyang Eko, in the judgment, also directed INEC to ensure that eligible Nigerians were not deprived the opportunity to have their voter card for the forthcoming poll. Justice Eko held that it was the constitutional responsibility of the electoral umpire to make adequate provision for the exercise in accordance with Nigerian laws. The originating summons filed before the court. The plaintiffs argued that INEC cannot stop the CVR contrary to the stipulated provisions of the Constitution. They urged the court to order the electoral umpire to resume the exercise in accordance with the law of the country.
President Muhammadu Buhari will unveil the newly designed Naira notes today. That is according to the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. Emefiele discloses at the Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the bank in Abuja on Tuesday. The newly designed Naira notes are 1,000 Naira, 500 and 200 Naira notes. Emefiele had last month announced the plan to redesign the Naira, saying the money being held by some individuals was higher than the one in circulation. Emefiele said the Apex Bank will not move the January 31st, 2023 deadline for all old notes to be deposited to commercial banks. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Nigeria on Tuesday raised its benchmark lending rate to 16.5% in a sustained push to control inflation and ease pressure on the Naira. Godwin Emefiele, governor of the Central Bank, made this known at the end of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting. He said previous increases were beginning to yield results and there was need to keep tightening. It tightened by 100 basis points.
Indeed, we are no longer waiting till December 15th to begin to unveil and begin to release the new note. By the special grace of God, tomorrow, which is the 23rd of November, 2022, the President has graciously accepted to unveil the new currencies, and the new currencies will be unveiled tomorrow at the Federal Executive Chambers by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Nigerians want to carry 1,000 Naira and 500 Naira. And in fact, we are beginning to see or think that increasing the high denomination bills is also part of what may even be fueling inflation. So in fact, yes, we will launch 200, 500, 1,000. Over time, we will reduce the volume of 500 and 1,000 in circulation.
All right, now let's take a look at some more packages. Floods may have come and gone, but not the memories and lamentations of from those who have been affected. In Benue State, the food basket of the nation, the farmers raised alarm over imminent hunger due to the flood that ravaged the state during the 2022 rainy season. Jimmy Azande reports.
When you look at this yam, it is affected by water. It is water that causes this. Some of them rotten. Some of them get this beer on the body. When you look at it. So when you bring them to the market, they will not put much amount on it because of the affected skin.
And we, if you go to our homes, you will experience a lot of yams that lots concerning this flooding. So when the rain falls and it fails to go, those rain affect soil. It never goes. It takes a little time before the water goes. So when it takes a little time, it affects yam inside the ground.
These are the cries of those in the yam chain in the Sankra Axis, largest producers of yam in Africa. No thanks to the 2022 flood disaster. They said the usual hustle and bustle in the popular Zakiban market would not be witnessed this year, as many farmers have lost their homes and farmlands in the flood. Another category, the rice farmers, also cried out.
Farm here, this flood 2022, you can see level everything, about 3 hectares. There is nothing I can get to feed because at times we do all those things to feed and then sell to other domestic problems. As it can happen like this, we are zero. We don't have anything in hand.
I plant lice. Both of these places is mine. Then I use lice. Then I plant it. But the matter of rain, this rain. So when God rain, the rice has been perished. It's the remaining one. Starting from there to this side, is the one that remains on it. So for me, I think what I can do.
They also urged the government and organizations to intervene to minimize the hunger that is imminent because of the losses caused by floods. During the last rainy season, hundreds of thousands of hectares of farmlands, together with farm produce, were washed away and destroyed in the state.
Thank you, Jimmy Azande, for that report, and that's a very pathetic story. From there now, let's take another package. Canoe making is engaging locals at Bakin Kogi, a community along the Kaduna River. Though the prices are low, the business sustains transportation of people, foodstuffs, and animals from the community to Kaduna metropolis. Trust TV's Bello Musa completes the report.
Local canoe making is a lucrative business for these young men, and according to them, though the price is not high, but the patronage is good. Okasha Umar is a local canoe maker who has been in the business for 8 years with a wife and 2 children. Umar said he earns a living from the business. This business is good for me because I earn a living from it, and I am thankful to God. Besides earning a living, these young men say they construct the canoe to help their communities with means of transportation. People come from far to buy them for transportation of passengers and goods, so as to help the communities around us with means of transportation. Like any other human endeavor, canoe making comes with challenge, especially lack of modern equipment that will enable them to construct canoe with ease. We need machines that will help us in cutting down the wood to construct the canoes. In the past, we had boats that worked with machines, but now none of them is working. If we can get assistance from the government, it will enable us to improve on the boats. Amidst lack of jobs for the teeming youths, canoe making provides jobs for some youths in Kaduna State. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
All right, now the People's Democratic Party and Labour Party presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi on Tuesday pledged commitment to implement a list of demands proposed by the Christian Association of Nigeria anchored on restructuring and constitutional reforms. Trust TV's Shefiu Suleiman reports that the SDP presidential candidate Adewale Adebayo also appeared before the Christian body to unveil his agenda for the country.
Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN) had last week presented its demands to the APC and Action Alliance presidential candidates Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Major Hamza Al-Mustapha retired. It is the turn of PDP, SDP and Labour Party presidential candidates. Responding to the demands, Atiku Abubakar says it is consistent with his covenant with Nigerians, pledging to implement them if he becomes Nigeria's president.
What you have presented to us is what I have always believed in. And if I have the opportunity, I swear to God I will do it.
Speaking on the same platform, presidential candidate of the Labour Party Peter Obi, who provided his basis for adopting the charter, assures the Christian community of his commitment to its implementation.
What we need now is implementation of it. And I is committed to implementation of it. I'm not going to give an excuse.
Presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Adewale Adebayo, went memory lane on the reasons behind the creation of the religious body, which he says was to emancipate the citizens across religious divides.
CAN was a defender of truth and justice. Whoever is at the receiving end, and we want that CAN, that when CAN will speak, it is not only Christians who will be listening.
As a build-up to the 2023 elections, various interest and professional groups are engaging the presidential candidates in an effort to engender issue-based conversations that will shape the electoral outcome. Shefiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thank you, Shefiu, for that report. The Senate has summoned the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, to explain an allocation of 206 billion inserted into the 2023 budget of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. The Senate, through its Committee on Special Duties, asked the minister to appear before it with details and plans for the allocation made despite the country's dwindling revenue and struggling economy. Let's take the report.
The resolution to invite the Minister of Finance was made during the budget defense session of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. This comes as the minister in charge of the ministry, Sadiya Farouk, was unable to provide details of the proposed allocation of 206 billion naira in our ministry's proposed budget for the year 2023. A member of the panel, Elisha Abo, representing Adamawa State, recalled how the committee had to summon the Minister of Finance during budget defense by the Ministry of Health and the Primary Health Care. Similar issue, he noted, has come up with the Humanitarian Ministry. He wondered if the 206 billion naira is captured in the medium-term expenditure framework.
We observed 301 billion naira was inserted in the budget for 2023, which will be funded through multilateral and bilateral loans. And we asked the Honorable Minister to give us the details of the activities and the projects that will be implemented with this money.
A Minister of Humanitarian Affairs accused the Ministry of Finance of inserting into her ministry's 2023 budget without her knowledge.
For the 2022, which was not released, and we said part of it is for the NAFS budget and part for the NDC. The money was not released, and now we have seen it reoccurring by almost tenfold, and we're going to also clarify from the Federal Ministry of Finance.
The Minister of Finance should appear before this committee to furnish this committee with the full details of what they intend to do with 206 billion naira in 2023 budget.
The chairman of the committee, Yusuf, thereafter moved a motion to summon the finance minister to give an explanation about the 206 billion naira inserted in the budget.
We will ask Minister of Finance, to come and give us, proper explanation of that bilateral, engagement. The increase and the non-release, in 2022. Probably we'll fix a date, where we may invite her and then you as well, if there's a need to do that.
No date was given for her to appear before the committee.
All right, we'll now take a short breather, and then when we return, the show will continue. Join us again.
Trust TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, thank you for staying. It's Daybreak on Trust Television, reaching you from the nation's capital, right here in Abuja. Now, time for us to take a look at the dailies on Daybreak. We have our guest reviewer, Ben Shema, the Director of News, Voice of Nigeria. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak.
My pleasure.
You're welcome. All right, beginning with the Daily Trust newspaper, the lead story, of course, as expected, oil in North. Kolmani drill attracts 1.33 trillion naira investment, says Buhari. You'd find that on page 4. The writer says 1 billion oil barrels, 500 billion cubic feet of gas exciting. New facility to have refinery, fertilizer plant. More oil discoveries in Anambra, Sokoto, others. You'd find also why we adopted co-regulation, media owners. That's on page 4. Other stories at the footnote, race to NAS, Bagudu Alero in Titanic battle for Kebbi Central. That's on page 31. There you would also find the pictorial there of the unveiling of the Kolmani oil field by President Muhammadu Buhari yesterday. Also, you'd find above the pictorial, I will implement your demands, Atiku tells CAN leaders. He holds politicians to their promises. Obi urges Nigerians. We won't be partisan, CAN president, on page 12. 66 travelers killed in Abuja, Borno, Kogi, Plateau Road accidents on page 5. And then, of course, the count that the Daily Trust has continued to do on the schoolgirls abducted by terrorists, rather, the FGC Birni Yauri schoolgirls, 11 of them still in captivity. It's been 524 days, and still one student of Bethel Baptist High School, Kujama, is 497 days. And that's that for the Daily Trust newspaper.
All right, now let's take a look at the Guardian newspaper. It has a lead story still on the oil drilling. It says oil drilling begins in Gombe, Bauchi with 1 billion barrels oil. And then the first rider, Buhari orders NNPCs to step up oil search, says Kolmani project attracted $3 billion investment. Silva Kyari drums support for exploration across inland. Lawan advocates constitutional review for 13% derivation utilization. Bauchi Gombe governors pledge support, conducive environment. I will take project up from Buhari, says APC presidential candidate Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And just above that, Ronaldo leaves Manchester United after explosive interview. And then we also have CBN moves to curb inflation as interest rate jumps to 16.5%. Still on the Guardian newspaper, Nigerian media industry adopts new co-regulation code of ethics. Coups, U.S. excludes Sudan, Mali, others from Africa Leaders Summit. We also have here, Atiku Okowa meets CAN, insists on restructuring. These are the major stories on the Guardian for today.
All right. On the Nation newspaper, the lead story there, oil. Buhari warns against Niger Delta mistakes in North. You would also find above the masthead, new Naira notes go into circulation today. You'd find interest rates now. And then also APC to launch crowd pooling app, raise funds, party rejigs campaign plan. Document on 2.2 billion naira SWF missing. Ministry tells Senate no excuses for loss to Saudi Arabia, says Messi. Why Jonathan can't back Atiku by Wike. These are the stories on the Nation newspaper this morning.
Over now to the Punch newspaper. 16.5% interest rate. Private sector predicts factories shut down, higher bad loans. And the first rider, CBN interest rate hike will increase manufacturers' 5 trillion naira debts. Monetary policy tightening will worsen inflation. This is coming from Nasima. And just beneath that, Punch demands 25.1 million judgment debt from CBN. Impeached Ekiti speaker heads for court. Abuja Bauchi crashes kill 44. Federal Road Safety Corps plans mass burial. And just by the masthead, new Naira notes for circulation before December 15. And above that, Atiku Obi meet Khan, tackle APC on governance. It's late to resume voter registration, court rules. Fuel queues resurface in Lagos, marketers blame depots. These are the major stories on the Punch.
All right, now let's take a look at the Leadership newspaper. The lead story, 2023 presidency, Christian leaders quiz Atiku Obi Adebayo over plans for Nigeria. You'd find also just below the masthead, history as PMB commissions 1 billion barrels Kolmani crude oil drilling. Also, arms, hard drugs imported into Nigeria ahead of 2023 polls. Al-Mustafa warns. You have court rejects request to order continued voter registration. Buhari unveils redesigned Naira notes today. CBN raises interest rate. And of course, other stories. Governor Sule presents 148.9 billion Naira 2023 budget to Nasarawa Assembly. Qatar 2022. Saudi Arabia declares public holiday to celebrate Argentina win, and Sanwo-Olu wants states impute in electricity bill. That's that for the Leadership newspaper.
And the This Day newspaper has a lead story that is similar to the one on other papers. Buhari kicks off oil drilling in North as $3 billion Kolmani River oil wells takes off. And then the first rider says, Northern governors, Tinubu, others upbeat, urge operators to learn from mistakes in Niger Delta. And then just above that, at separate meetings with Khan, Atiku Obi Adebayo discussed restructuring, economy, security. And above the masthead, don't give up on your dreams, Sanwo-Olu tells rescued street kids. President to unveil new Naira banknotes today. Those are major stories on This Day newspaper for today.
All right, so let's get perspectives on these stories. Ben Shema, thank you so much for joining us in the studio.
Thank you once again.
The Kolmani oil field is all over the papers today. It's a big feat. A lot of people have said that discovering this at this time will do a lot to help the country's revenue and all that. So what's your take on this against the backdrop of what people are saying, well, mistakes of the Niger Delta should not be seen repeated in the Northeast?
Surely, I recall a certain SGF, Aminu Saleh, during the Abacha days. He stood for this oil exploration in the north. And at the point they were saying, no, it was a political game, just to ensure that you distract attention. How do you distract attention? This one that Niger Delta, our oil, we are the ones sustaining Nigeria, that the North was just simply trying to play some political games with that. Now, this is scientific. It's now proven that there is condensate of that. And of course, Nigeria is good for it. But when they talk of the mistakes of the past, when Ghana did its oil finding, they came into the Niger Delta and looked at the environment, said, how can Ghana avoid the mistakes in Nigeria? And here we are, the president saying, avoid the mistakes of the Niger Delta. What are these mistakes? You now look at the environmental impact assessment. Now that you're going to go into extraction, of course the environment will be affected. How do you take care of that? Now, how do you also take care of the communities, the host communities? If these activities will imply you have to resettle some communities, at what price? Learn from the mistakes of the Niger Delta. The environmental pollution, if we're talking of the mangrove areas of the Niger Delta, the swampy areas of the Niger Delta, water being polluted. Now, up north, it also means maybe vegetation. You see dry grass, dry trees, dry whatever. I'm sure, you're talking about climate change now. How is that going to impact on the climate again? Look at the gas flaring that is happening in River State. Go to Akwa Ibom, you just see fire being emitted continuously non-stop. And they said that's the gas we are looking for. That is just going. Why is it that these big multinational oil companies are not tapping this gas for domestic use here at home? Here we are felling trees, cutting down the trees and depleting the environment, the trees, vegetation, without, again, planting some back. How do we ensure that many of these climatic things that are destroying the environment are taken care of? Then you look at even the money itself. How do you manage it?
You know, Mr. Chairman, I was going to ask that. You know, in the Niger Delta now, yes, the resources is there, they get this 13% derivation. But the ordinary people, the people in the communities, when you see them, you don't see the impact of this derivation on them. But, I mean, you see it on the leaders. Yeah. So, what is the guarantee that the people of these states, especially the Gombe and the Bauchi states that are sharing these oil wells, what is the guarantee that they are going to have a different fate, a better situation?
Yeah, the guarantee is you look at if there are some laws that have some loopholes, they should be blocked. The guarantee is that you look at people with conscience, and of course, I mean, let Nigerians simply this corruption that is so palpable, is so discernible, it's seen everywhere. It shouldn't just be it. And there's also the extractive oil industry too, office here. They should also put some agencies in check. Those who are saddled with leadership of some companies, please deliver according to the mandate. Then, in terms of oversight function, at the point, look at how long the petroleum industry bill took place. There were accusations that at the point, each time the bill was to see the light of the day, some of the committee members, as it was alleged, would be taken out for some shopping abroad. They are settled, and at the end, the bill was thrown away. They say it's too voluminous, it's too bulky. How can we sit down and is this the only thing? And it was always thrown away. So if there is, I mean, do we take the laws governing the oil sector in the Niger Delta and apply to the one in the north? Are the laws the same? Is the environment the same? And when we are talking of littoral states and derivation, so it means Bauchi, Gombe, we still, and look at the name, Bauchi Gombe. So where's this Kolmani? Is it directly on the across the two boundaries?
So it's on the border. That's what we understand. Yeah.
And I recall too some 5 or so years when you had some oil finds in Kogi, Anambra. Of course, communities went for each other's jugular veins. And so there is something in oil that develops, there is something in oil that can bring enmity. And it's just like you said, the Niger Deltans, at the point jokingly, some people say, oh, we came to Abuja and saw that flyovers, bridges have been constructed across roads without rivers. we live in the within the riverine areas without bridges. Abuja has no rivers, but you see bridges all over the place. So these are things being taken for granted, but they are serious jokes, and that should be looked at. When they said, oh, every project, we're going to look at it is in the pipeline, said, oh, Niger Deltans begin to break the pipelines to see really what is there.
Right.
You know, these are jokes that should be taken seriously so that the youths in Bauchi area, and of course, when you find oil in one spot, it means the environment, the general areas has oil.
Okay.
So when Oloibiri was discovered around 59 or 1959, of course you could see that it spreads to Akwa Ibom. Oloibiri is in Bayelsa. Now you can see Rivers has, now Anambra, look at Imo. So the general area will have, including my area, don't forget.
Now, the president himself acknowledged that this is happening at a time when there's no appetite for fossil fuels. In fact, the world is shifting, moving away from this source of energy. And there's all sorts of concerns about, you know, impacts on the environment and all of that. So how do we maximize the benefit of this, considering the fact that it's going to take a while? This is not, it's not like it's just everything's going to happen like this, but it's going to take a while before we begin to see actual exploration go on in this regard.
You see, we are at the mercy of the developed world. When, let's juxtapose it with digitization, the broadcasting industry. When they said, look, Radio Nigeria, Voice of Nigeria, for example, shortwave broadcasting, you could hear us, Vaughan in Australia, you could hear via the shortwave broadcasting. But when digitization came in, they said, no, we're going to maintain that old approach to issues. Do we manufacture the transmitters? We don't. So, in the same vein, the moment they say we are shifting to electronic car system, solar system, and all that stuff, we have no option. What are we going to use in terms of extracting this oil? In terms of exploiting, removing them from the ground, we don't manufacture them. So when the West says no, we just simply have to follow, because they will not manufacture those things. We won't have them. And that's why, see, when Chiyoda came in and set up the refinery in Kaduna, Chiyoda, Japan, and you could see that many of those equipment have become very old. Are we replacing them? We still have to fall back to Chiyoda. That is, if Chiyoda still exists.
Okay.
And so you go back, compare that with Radio Nigeria, Kaduna. That thing has gone down, because the transmitters are no longer being manufactured by the manufacturers.
In that case, since the president has also talked about other explorations across the country and the need to look at those potentials, and isn't there also a need to also apply the same effort, the same energy towards diversifying the economy, so that as we're doing this, we're also doing that, so that when the West says, oh, we're moving totally away from this, we have something to fall back on?
Yes, you see, the issue is we love this thing we call consumerism, consumer, brand loyalty. We love finished products. That's why big shops, shopping sites are all over the place. What do you call next option, plan B, plan C, when it comes to issues of this nature? Already the warning signals are there. If electricity we are not generating the way we want, solar is becoming an option. Give that for the streets. Any other one that you generate via the dams, take it to the industries. These are options. And so when we begin to have these warning signals, the world is moving towards this direction, and we are still so stiff-necked and following that pattern. What will be our end result? And it is also time that our academics should come in. Our research findings, let them not just end in our computers or on top of projects, let us begin to implement them. And truly, truly, when you see some little boys doing some wonders, you use batteries, and you can fly something like a small drone, we should begin to capture those people and use them. When we had Professor Oyibo, who brought in the almighty formula, he called it Godot. Each time he was talking, people would not understand him, not until the Americans went and carried that man away. The last time Professor Oyibo came in here, some Americans came in here with black goggles, with some monitoring. I mean, we lost that guy. Another one invented what you call amphibious car. On the road, it moves. When it reaches the road, the tires will just roll, and the thing will float on water, crosses over, and it roll again. Americans took him away. On the line, thank God he's back. But again, the environment he's operating, he's now DG of this automotive or something center. That man ought to have a very big workshop with some geniuses. Look, they all are creating this and moving Nigeria forward. But you leave that genius into signing files, into debating budget at the National Assembly. I'm wondering, with a tie. When he's supposed to be with one T-shirt, the jeans, tools, it's when he wants to relax that I mean, you know.
Okay, so we are also saying that the CBN couldn't wait. The president is going to be unveiling the new Naira notes today. Some papers are reporting that it's going to be in circulation today. So we do not know what exactly is going to happen. Is it the unveiling or is it the circulation here? You know, so maybe you should give us your take.
To the best of my knowledge is the unveiling. What do you call unveiling? If you say circulation, it means the money is already there in bulk and it is already taken to the banks, and therefore exchange will start. Using it as a medium of buying and selling. But unveiling implies, look, there will be big photographs, across it the right specimen. This is how 200 Naira will look like. This is how 500 Naira will look like. This is how 1,000 Naira will look like. But I like one thing the governor is saying, that they're going to reduce the number of big currencies in circulation, which is what is happening abroad. Stella make a mistake, carry 500 euros to Germany. And see, that's how you carry that money back. They will not accept it. It's not as if they don't want to collect their money or sell their goods, but theirs is they need little monies. They do electronic transfers, electronic banking. E-banking is just the in thing there. And that's why, because we move with heavy money here and there, it's easy for the armed robbers to also go to the houses. But if it's now by electronic transfers and all that, except little things, and see, we go abroad, some people come smiling, say, oh, these are little coins from so country. They bring them as souvenirs. But with us, when did you see a coin last? Over there, we use it with pride.
Again, that's another concern, really, because we are talking about the 200 Naira, 500 Naira notes and 1,000 Naira note. No one is talking about the smaller denominations that seem to be disappearing. The 100 Naira, the 50 Naira, even when you see them, they look so, I mean, most of them are very old. You hardly can find a new
if you look at the heartbeat, if you look at the heartbeat and the thinking of the CBN and the Monetary Committee too, theirs is when you reduce the 1,000, the number in circulation, 500, you reduce that to also the smaller denominations. 100 Naira, 50 Naira, 20 Naira, 10 Naira, 5 Naira, in that order. Those ones are supposed to be around the place. And I tell you, if they do it that way, it will help in checking inflation.
But those are not available.
Yes, just a moment.
The smaller denominations are not available.
Yes.
They're just not available.
That is what they are saying. If they reduce 1,000, they transfer that into the smaller denominations, so to speak.
Is it, Mr. Chairman, is it possible that it's because those smaller denominations can really not buy anything at the moment?
Yes, you know why? Because they are not available. Okay,
just a moment.
You want to buy bitter cola. You want to buy bitter cola. And this man ought to sell it for 5 naira. Now, even if he says it's 5 naira, you don't have it, he doesn't have it. He wants to sell, you want to buy. And he doesn't have it. So the man, what he does is to jack it up. And jacking it up implies everything we tend to, I mean, we don't have anything that will cost you 3 naira, that will cost you 7 naira, that will cost you 9 naira, that will cost you, we just believe in even numbers. It has to be round figure. Okay, they are giving you money, it's 20,000 naira. They won't dash you 21,000 naira, 50 kobo. It has to be round figure. And that's how prices with us, you always see where they
so
do.
This is also contributing to the inflation.
Honestly, it does. Because if you are moving with, why is it that you have the commonest notes are the highest ones?
Okay, and why was
Why do you have 500 more? You have 1,000 more. Hardly do you see 200. I mean, it has disappeared. Hardly do you find 1,000 and 100 naira. Go to the bank and say, look, can you give me 100? I said, no, we don't have now.
And while we're talking about that,
yes,
but they are being sold.
They are being sold in some places, yes, I've seen that.
They are being sold.
And when we're talking about the naira, yes, they're going to unveil this naira and all of that. But still yesterday, they increased the interest rate to 16.5.
Yes,
Isn't that also bad for the naira?
It's bad for the naira, but I think the monetary committee usually they meet some 2 or 3 months or something.
This is the 4th time they're increasing interest rate this year.
Yes. Now I think the game plan as they are approaching politics, the period, there are times some people go borrow money to go into politics. And I think they are the target more than the industrial thing, because politics has come, you see that, I mean, nobody is signing some agreements to start some projects. Rather, people are talking of campaigns, I'll give you this, I'll give you that, I'll give you that. So where do you get the money from? You fall back on the banks and you begin to borrow your own money, mine money, others who are keeping money, church money, mosque money that you gather, you keep there, you are not investing. They go to borrow to go into politics. So, and just a moment, what will the CBN do? Let us jack the interest rate so that by the time you borrow this and you calculate, it's going to be this interest. Now, should I borrow to go into politics, or I simply go there on my credentials? I think that is more of the factor considered than in my own opinion.
In the interest of the overall economy, because I hear you talking about those going into politics. This increment in interest rates, is it good for the overall interest of the economy? Because it appears as if we're just increasing interest rate to chase the inflation rate instead of, I mean, looking at other ways to handle
incidentally, in Nigeria, in terms of inflation, it's rare that anything that goes up comes down. It's very, very rare. And when they said it's for the sake of the strength of the naira, it's for the economy to grow and check inflation. The interpretation of that, truly, I've not yet seen it. Rather, maybe it could be that if there's too much money in circulation as per people going to borrow to go into politics, to start, check it when politicians are around and they are doing campaigns. What is in a certain booth is just raw cash. So if you check many of these things, and you also realize that some periods of festivities, you hardly withdraw some money up to a certain amount you want. During campaigns too, sanctions are being brought to bear. You see that politicians who have promised so place, I'll give you they can't bring the money, they can't withdraw it, and those events will come and pass. You begin to release the money piecemeal.
So this will help in reducing the monetization of our electoral process?
I think so, sure, yes.
All right. So perhaps the president is beginning to put action to his words about leaving a lasting legacy of a free and fair election going by this. Now, there's another story on The Guardian. Nigerian media industry adopts new co-regulation code of ethics. I would like you to talk about that.
Yes. Now, in-house, say Daily Trust, you have some laws that govern the staff conduct. In Voice of Nigeria, in NTA, Everseen, AIT, channels, all of them, they have in-house laws. Then when you go a bit wider, you belong to NUJ, Guild of Editors. These organizations, associations, they all have their own bylaws that are binding on members. Then you have the bigger laws, especially National Broadcasting, NBC, National Broadcasting Corporation. They sanction, they put their eyes on the broadcasting industry. But you also have the National Press Council that is supposed to look at the print media. Unfortunately, that agency has always been in court. The newspapers are saying we don't need a regulator. So if there is for broadcasting and they are sanctioning media, radio, TV houses, then the newspapers are saying don't sanction us. We'll regulate ourselves. Now you have MPAN, Newspapers Proprietors Association of Nigeria, now coming together with NBC, Nigerian Press Council, NUJ, Guild of Editors, all of them now saying, let us come on board with one single approach when it comes to professionalism. And I see that Nigerian Society of Broadcasters, they're coming on board. They want to kind of establish that. I remember Aremo Taiwo Alimi, Abike Dabiri, and many others. Shola Omole, who are going to end to National Assembly to defend this bill. It reached a second reading, but Abike Dabiri left, and some other people. So to go in didn't just go in very well as part
of
making the law.
So what's this co-regulation all about?
It implies that anything that ought to be done should be done properly. If, for example, NBC says it is an offense for you to tell lies on air, and you tell these lies, I mean, we should all abide by that and say this is wrong and it is wrong. If, for example, they say, unless INEC declares result, you cannot, as a newspaper, you cannot, as a television station or radio station, announce that so has won. And so we now have to come on board, agree on one thing, and that's just
one of the methods the newspapers have adopted is the fact that every newspaper will have its ombudsman, which the ombudsman points out the errors in the paper, and then the sanctions will be meted at, and those sanctions will even be publicized. If that is done, do you think that the government will allow the newspapers to regulate itself? Because now they have ombudsmen who will do this work for them.
Well, you see, I always question this. If we have, by law, establishing an agency that serves as even the ombudsman, who really is an ombudsman? A man of conscience, a man who indeed will look at what has been published, a man who indeed, even outside the newspapering industry, these are people of conscience who indeed, when they see government is also not approaching issues the way they ought to be, and that is also hitting up the polity, and that is what the media world is feasting on. You see, they cut across. Talk to government, talk to media, because they have this conscience. People believe in them, and if therefore the media industry feels, let us check ourselves on a platform to ensure that we are seen as people of integrity, an industry people believe in, an industry that holds government to account for what they are doing or what they have failed to do, or you bring a checklist, what has been your agreement, your campaign, when you said you want to do this, you want to do that. Are you bringing them? So we want a media consortium.
Essentially, it's all the bodies coming together, all the association and the regulating bodies coming together to have a single code for all the
to ensure professionalism. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time on Daybreak this morning and sharing your perspectives on some of the major stories. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Our guest reviewer is Ben Shemang, the Director of News Voice of Nigeria. We'll be taking a short breather now, and then when we return, Daybreak continues. Join us again.
But in a situation where you find that they look at the same,
not necessarily tribal or regional.
because I have said that.
That's great.
All right, thanks for staying. You're watching Daybreak on Trust Television. It's top of the hour. It's time for us to take a look at the headlines again this morning. Kolmani oil field. President Buhari commissions oil drilling in Bauchi and Gombe.
Bilateral relations. Nigeria, Canada agreed to collaborate on energy.
Buhari to unveil redesigned Naira notes today.
Now let's take a look at the details. President Muhammadu Buhari has commissioned the Kolmani River 2 oil field at the boundary communities of Barambu in Bauchi and Gombe State. Buhari, accompanied by the Bauchi State Governor Bala Mohammed, arrived Barambu village in Akaleri local government area and was driven in a convoy to the Kolmani River 2 oil field project site in a heavily guarded motorcade as he waved to locals who defied the sun to welcome him. Governors, ministers, officials, and dignitaries were on ground to receive the president for the epoch-making event. President Buhari said there were more oil discoveries ongoing in the Anambra Basin, Lower Benue Trough, and other areas in the country. He said the Kolmani project has attracted over 3 billion investments so far. The president is glad that he said he was glad that this discovery had emanated from his charge to the NNPC to re-strategize and expand its oil and gas exploration footprints to the frontier basins of Anambra, Dahomey, Sokoto, Benue Trough, Chad, and Bida basins. He said similar activities across the other basins are currently ongoing. Other dignitaries include the President of the Senate, Ahmed Lawan, the presidential candidate of the All Progressives Congress, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, captains of industry, as well as politicians within Bauchi and Gombe states.
All right. The Nigerian Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and Canadian Deputy Prime Minister Chrystia Freeland have agreed to deepen relations between their countries in a bid to improve trade, widen educational collaboration, and continue dialogue on the global energy transition issues and climate change. Both leaders met in Ottawa, the Canadian capital, on Monday, comparing exchanged notes on some economic challenges in their countries, including physical and monetary difficulties, subsidies, financial inclusion, social investment programs, and strategies to support the vulnerable. The Nigerian Vice President reaffirmed the country's strategy of using gas as a transition fuel, a notion he said that garnered traction at the recent COP27 conference in Egypt. Using gas as a transition fuel is still widely unacknowledged in the West, but Vice President Osinbajo says that Nigeria is determined to pursue the path in light of the fact that it has huge gas reserves. Beyond gas, the Nigerian government's energy transition plan is focused on renewable energy, including the ongoing Solar Power Naija program, which was launched under its economic sustainability plan. The Canadian Deputy Prime Minister, who is also the nation's finance minister, agreed that the use of natural gas makes sense and expressed readiness to keep discussing with Nigeria to get financing for gas projects.
President Muhammadu Buhari will unveil the newly designed Naira notes today. That is according to the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Godwin Emefiele. Emefiele disclosed this at the Monetary Policy Committee meeting of the bank on Tuesday in Abuja. The newly designed Naira notes are 1,000 Naira, 500 Naira, and 200 Naira notes. Emefiele had last month announced the plan to redesign the Naira, saying the money being held by some individuals was higher than the one in circulation. The CBN governor said the Apex Bank will not move the January 31st, 2023 deadline for all notes to be deposited in commercial banks.
Indeed, we are no longer waiting till December 15th to begin to unveil and begin to release the new notes. By the special grace of God, tomorrow, which is the 23rd of November, 2022, the President has graciously accepted to unveil the new currencies, and the new currencies will be unveiled tomorrow by the Federal Executive Chambers by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Nigerians want to carry 1,000 Naira and 500 Naira. And in fact, we are beginning to see or think that increasing the high denomination bills is also part of what may even be fueling inflation. So in fact, yes, we will launch 200, 500, 1,000. Over time, we will reduce the volume of 500 and 1,000 in circulation.
All right, now let's take a look at some packages. Flood may have come and gone, but the memories and lamentations from those affected still remains. Now, in Benue State, the food basket of the nation, the farmers raised alarm over imminent hunger due to the flood that ravaged the state during the 2022 rainy season. Jimmy Azande reports.
When you look at this yam, it is affected by water. It is water that causes this. Some of them rotten. Some again get this beer on the body. look at it before. So when you bring them to the market, they will not put much amount on it because of the affected skin.
And we, if you go to our homes, you will experience a lot of yams concerning this flooding. So when the rain falls and it fails to go, those rain affect soil. It never goes. It takes a little time before the water goes. So when it takes a little time, it affects yam inside the ground.
These are the cries of those in the yam chain in the Sankra Axis, largest producers of yam in Africa. No thanks to the 2022 flood disaster. They said the usual hustle and bustle in the popular Zakiban market will not be witnessed this year, as many farmers have lost their homes and farmlands in the flood. Another category, the rice farmers, also cried out.
If I'm here, this flood 2022, you can see level everything, about 3 hectares. There is nothing I can get to feed because at times we do all those things to feed and then sell to other domestic problems. As it can happen like this, we are zero. We don't have anything in hand.
I plant lice. Both of these places is mine. Then I use lice. Then I plant it. But the matter of rain, this rain. So when God rain, the rice has been perished. It's the remaining one. Starting from there to this side, is the one that remains only. So for me, I think good thing I can do.
They also urged the government and organizations to intervene to minimize the hunger that is imminent because of the losses caused by floods. During the last rainy season, hundreds of thousands of hectares of farmlands together with farm produce were washed away and destroyed in the state.
All right. Now, canoe making is engaging locals at Bakin Kogi, a community along the Kaduna River. Though prices are low, the business sustains transportation of people, food items, and animals from the community to Kaduna metropolis. Trust TV's Bello Musa completes the report.
Local canoe making is a lucrative business for these young men. And according to them, though the price is not high, but the patronage is good. Okasha Umar is a local canoe maker who has been in the business for 8 years with a wife and 2 children. Umar said he earns a living from the business.
This business is good for me because I earn a living from it, and I am thankful to God.
Besides earning a living, these young men say they construct the canoe to help their communities with means of transportation.
People come from far to buy them for transportation of passengers and goods, so as to help the communities around us with means of transportation.
Like any other human endeavor, canoe making comes with challenge, especially lack of modern equipment that will enable them to construct canoe with ease.
We need machines that will help us in cutting down the wood to construct the canoes. In the past, we had boats that worked with machines, but now none of them is working. If we can get assistance from the government, it will enable us to improve on the boats.
Amidst lack of jobs for the teeming youths, canoe making provides jobs for some youths in Kaduna State. Bello Musa, Trust TV News, Kaduna.
People's Democratic Party and the Labour Party presidential candidates Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi on Tuesday pledged commitment to implement a list of demands proposed by the Christian Association of Nigeria anchored on restructuring and constitutional reforms. Trust TV's Shafiu Suleiman reports that the SDP presidential candidate Adewale Adebayo also appeared before the Christian body to unveil his agenda for the country.
Christian Association of Nigeria (CAN) had last week presented its demands to the APC and Action Alliance presidential candidates Bola Ahmed Tinubu and Major Hamza Al-Mustapha, retired. It is the turn of PDP, SDP and Labour Party presidential candidates. Responding to the demands, Atiku Abubakar says it is consistent with his covenant with Nigerians, pledging to implement them if he becomes Nigeria's president.
What you have presented to us is what I have always believed in. And if I have the opportunity, I swear to God I will do it.
Speaking on the same platform, presidential candidate of the Labour Party Peter Obi, who provided his basis for adopting the charter, assures the Christian community of his commitment to its implementation.
What we need now is implementation of it. And I is committed to implementation of it. I'm not going to give a excuse.
Presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Adewale Adebayo, went memory lane on the reasons behind the creation of the religious body, which he says was to emancipate the citizens across religious divides.
Khan was a defender of truth and justice. Whoever is at the receiving end. And we want that Khan, that when Khan will speak, it is not only Christians who will be listening.
As a build-up to the 2023 elections, various interest and professional groups are engaging the presidential candidates in an effort to engender issue-based conversations that will shape the electoral outcome. Shafiu Suleiman, Trust TV News, Abuja.
Thank you, Shafiu Suleiman. The Senate has summoned the Minister of Finance, Zainab Ahmed, to explain an allocation of 206 billion inserted into the 2023 budget of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. The Senate, through its Committee on Special Duties, asked the minister to appear before it with details and plans for the allocation made despite the country's dwindling revenue and struggling economy. Let's take the report.
The resolution to invite the Minister of Finance was made during the budget defense session of the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs. This comes as the minister in charge of the ministry, Sadiya Farouk, was unable to provide details of the proposed allocation of 206 billion naira in our ministry's proposed budget for the year 2023. A member of the panel, Elisha Abo, representing Adamawa State, recalled how the committee had to summon the Minister of Finance during budget defense by the Ministry of Health and the Primary Health Care. Similar issue, he noted, has come up with the Humanitarian Ministry. He wondered if the 206 billion naira is captured in the medium-term expenditure framework.
We observed 301 billion naira was inserted in the budget for 2023, which will be funded through multilateral and bilateral loans. And we asked the Honorable Minister to give us the details of the activities and the projects that will be implemented with this money.
A Minister of Humanitarian Affairs accused the Ministry of Finance of inserting into her ministry's 2023 budget without her knowledge.
For the 2022, which was not released, and we said part of it is for the NAFS budget and part for the NDC. The money was not released, and now we have seen it reoccurring by almost 10-fold, and we're going to also clarify from the Federal Ministry of Finance.
The Minister of Finance should appear before this committee to furnish this committee with the full details of what they intend to do with 206 billion naira in 2023 budget.
The chairman of the committee, Yusuf, thereafter moved a motion to summon the finance minister to give an explanation about the 206 billion naira inserted in the budget.
We will ask Minister of Finance, to come and give us, proper explanation of that bilateral, engagement, the increase and the non-release, in 2022. Probably we'll fix a date, where we may invite her and then you as well, if there's a need to do that.
No date was given for her to appear before the committee.
All right, now we'll take a short breather, and then when we return, we'll take a look at the next discussion on the program. Join us again. All right, thank you for staying with us. You're watching Daybreak on Trust Television. Now, the leadership crisis in the main opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, may not be over anytime soon, as the 5 aggrieved governors of the party, otherwise known as the G5, led by Governor Nyesom Wike of Rivers State and some other party chieftains, have announced the formation of a group they now call the Integrity Group. We have in the studio to talk about this lingering crisis a chieftain of the PDP. He's Umar Sani, who will be giving us perspectives. Thank you so much for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
You're welcome.
The crisis in the PDP has lingered perhaps beyond what a lot of political observers have expected till this time. Although the parties involved have said that they are open for reconciliation, it doesn't look like they are shifting grounds on the terms, on where they stand. The G5, for instance, insists that the national chairman of the party has to go. But I don't think that that's a stand that is changing the stand of the presidential candidates of the party and other members of the party as regards the national chairman of the party. What's the hope of any reconciliation going by this?
I think the issue is beyond the G5 or G5 Atiku confrontation. This is a matter that affects a political party, and the political party has rules that are guiding it into attaining its own successes and so forth. Now, for people to form a group within a political party and insist that either their demands are met or that they will sabotage the party, that is to show that that group is trying to show that it is greater than the party. And we know that the party is greater than any individual or group of individuals.
These are not ordinary members of your party.
No, IU didn't put himself
These are governors of your party.
Yeah, IU didn't put himself as the national chairman. Those governors were part and parcel of those people who actually put him there as the chairman of the party. And Alhaji Atiku Abubakar is merely a presidential candidate of the party. And as a presidential candidate of the party, he is not much more superior to the party chairman or to the party. He is still under the party. So I still don't get it, how some governors will form, a clique to insist on certain things. I'll give an example. Did they have to consult with Atiku Abubakar to remove Uche Secondos? When they wanted to put Ali Modu Sharif as the national chairman, was it Atiku Abubakar that they gave the go-ahead for them to put him there? Or when Makarifi was given the acting national chairman of the party, was it Atiku Abubakar that gave the permission? So why is it that the issue now is centered around Atiku Abubakar? Something must be fishy.
And it's not just about the governors anymore. The group is bigger than that. It has moved from G5 to Integrity Group, which is now, in fact, when Governor Makinde was speaking, he said the reason it's now Integrity Group is for people to know that it's not just about the governors, that there are other people involved. And you could see that there's former Governor John Ajang, there's former Governor Ayo Fayose, there's Professor Jerry Gana, and a couple of other people. There's Chief Bode George.
Yes.
So there are a couple of other people. The fact that this group is expanding, doesn't that bother
there is no any expansion. The group has always been the same group. They are only changing names. When they held their meeting in Port Harcourt? Was it not Jerry Gana who was the spokesman? Was Bode George not there? Was John Ajang not there? Was Donald Duke not there? They were all there. So it is nothing new. So the same people that are only changing names claiming to be Integrity Group. And I don't understand what Integrity Group means. in the context.
Integrity in the sense that they insist on fairness and justice in the PDP. They insist that for fairness and justice to be visible in the PDP, the leadership of the party, the national chairman, has to move to the southern parts of the country. That's their position, and that's why they consider themselves as men of integrity, and that's in line with the constitution of the party, according to them.
Yes, is the PDP saying we are not going to do it, or that it is not possible? The PDP is merely saying that this is an election year. We cannot be, at the middle of the game, begin to change players. You know, so we elected this man in December last year. And then almost December this, you want to get him removed. You want him out.
But if
how can we be changing national chairman as if we are changing clothes?
But if a party says that there's a threat, the elections are very close by, and this problem is still there, can the party adjust it? Or the party say, no, we're not going to do change because it's an election year. But if that problem is affecting that election, wouldn't the party have a
Is it really a problem? That is the issue we're looking at. Is it truly and really a problem? It is a problem generated by one man because he
with
has
a lot of followers at this point.
Because he has failed to secure the presidential ticket, and he has failed to secure the vice presidential ticket, and so he wants to rock the boat. And because those people have always been his allies, they are following. And even when they are following him, it does not mean that they are going to, accede to his request to work against the party. For instance, Ekwezu has clearly said, "I'm following Wike because I'm following the team because it opens my eyes to the issues. But I am a member of the PDP and I will work for my party." Ayo Fayose has come out to say that my son is contesting for House of Representatives. And because my son is contesting for, I cannot do anti-party because it is on the same day with Atiku. Now, Ugwanyi has met with Catholic priests in Enugu and has told them, please vote PDP from top to bottom. Now, that's an integrity group.
They are not,
so what is the danger?
But they are not part of the presidential campaign of the PDP. That in itself is a huge, it sends a lot of message. But that's beside the point I'm trying to make. Now, you have party members who clearly are engaging in anti-party activities. For instance, Wike in Rivers State has invited, well, that's not anti-party, inviting other party members to come and launch projects. But beyond launching, commissioning the project in Rivers State, he has said that he is going to be supporting other candidates in this race with logistic supports in his state. The candidate of the Labour Party, for instance, and the candidate of the NNPP, and several statements that could be said to be anti-party. He's still within the party. So if the party is supreme, like you've said earlier, why can't the party just perhaps suspend the governor of Rivers State from the party, or maybe expel him or something?
All right, before you take that, because it's nice, it would be nice for us to contextualize. Before you take that, let me not lose the focus of his question, please. Okay.
Now, on the basis of what you are saying, you see, this is an election year, like I said, and the party does not need any distraction. Now, when the party begins to banter words or begin to take certain steps, against any member of the party, it is encouraging chaos and anarchy within the party. So the party is not distracted. It is. But
the chaos is already there.
No, that is not chaos. It is only one man's issue. There is no chaos. Did you hear any problem?
Is it really a one-man's issue? We've seen several governors of the PDP not at the presidential campaigns of the PDP. Campaigns have started.
Did you know that Dangombo, Ibrahim Dangombo, the former governor of Gombe State, is a member of the Wike group, and he was his DG.
I'm talking about the
G5.
Wait,
he's a former governor, and he was there, but he went to the Gombe campaign, and he even donated 20 buses to the presidential campaign. But he's not a member of the Presidential Campaign Council.
I'm talking about the G5 governors.
We are not talking about whether they belong to the campaign council or not. We are saying that they have not left the PDP.
Are you
and they are working for the PDP.
undermining their role in the campaigns of the PDP?
Is there any
is it insignificant?
Is there anywhere where we say we are undermining them? What we are saying is that they have not left the party. They have never made any statement to indicate that they have left the party.
Okay, recently,
and they have insisted that they are going to work for the interests of the party. So I don't see any problem in that.
All right, okay. Recently in Oyo State, when Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu visited, he's the presidential candidate of the APC, the deputy governor, representing the Governor Makinde, pledged the support of the state to Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
Well, I don't understand that because it was said in Yoruba language. I saw the video.
It was interpreted
Yes,
later.
The interpretation was given different meanings. I asked my friend to interpret. The interpretation he gave me, he's a Yoruba man, is different from the interpretation and the man also came out clearly to say that that's not what he meant.
I mean, the
deputy governor who actually went there came out to say that's not what he intended. So I don't think that is an issue.
All right,
for deliberation.
Alhaji, there are some persons that say that this crisis is a bit more than Ayu, because the governors of the South met last year in 2021 and resolved that power should shift to the South. In April this year, PDP governors of the Southeast met and resolved that power should shift to the South. Is it possible that this problem is beyond the issue of Ayu?
No, what the question I would have asked is, if Wike has been given the vice presidential ticket, will there have been this problem?
Well, we do not know because he wasn't given.
There will have been no problem because he is the genesis of the problem. And because he is the genesis of the he has seen that perhaps he has lost out in all the two key positions, and so he is trying to rock the boat.
Would Wike have accepted a vice presidential seat in this race, you think?
Well, he initially, by his own mouth, said he doesn't want it. But again, he wanted it. And because he was not given, it became a problem.
Okay, at this point, do you think, because some persons have said that people of both camps should shift grounds, what do you think they can do, both camps,
I think,
in shifting?
I think on this program, I had already said something, and I think it actually took place. I said the PDP is a very large party, and it even has a military wing of the party. And I'm sure that you have heard that they met with former President Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, both sides, and they had held a discussion with a view to shifting grounds. Now, the Wike group came out with a statement that time that their position now is that, one, that if Atiku wins, all the 6 geopolitical zones must be represented in the appointment. 2, that the positions in the party that are now in the north should move to the south. That was their position when they came out of that meeting. But perhaps something also changed, and then they now reverted back to their original view.
There have been the Adolphus Wabara committee that was charged with the responsibility of reconciling this matter. Can you, what came out of that visit, that meeting with the Wike camp, and the recommendations of that committee of the Adolphus Wabara?
Well, Wike said he would not accept the recommendations of the Adolphus Wabara. Will give the same report, I'm telling you, which they agreed upon now. The Adolphus Wabara's committee said immediately after the election, party positions on the north will move to the south, and party positions in the south will move to the north. That was the recommendation of the Adolphus Wabara group, and Wike said no, it is not acceptable to him.
But that has been a position that has been in place even before that committee. So what's new with that position?
Well, if a committee is set up, ordinarily other positions were not done by any committee. They were things that were bantered, words being flying around. But this one is a committee charged with that responsibility to be able to resolve that matter. And this is what they came up with. And so if they came up with it, it means it is a view of a generality of party members they are conveying.
All right. Towards the end of last week, there were talks around the party that the presidential candidate of your party has called on the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, to intervene. And only yesterday, we saw Wike saying that there was no way the former president was going to be able to achieve any results in that regard. What do you say to that?
Well, I don't know whether there was any overtures to the former president to intervene, because the former president said that he was not aware of the matter. He has issued a statement to say he was not aware of that matter. Nobody has approached him to intervene in any matter. So if Wike is coming out to say that there was no way the man could have intervened in any matter, well, I saw Atiku, with him, with the former president in his residence, and they were taking pictures. So whether they discussed that or not is not something that is private to me.
Well, he's a chieftain of the party, the former president. Do you think he can help in any regard?
Well, as a former president and as a respected statesman, he has a role to play. But that is if he is brought in to play that role. You don't just, offer yourself in a political party when nobody has asked you to please come and intervene. If nobody comes to say, come and see, will you go and be seen? That is I think that's his position.
In the build-up to the primary elections, we saw a lot of talks about the APC considering the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, to be the flag bearer of the party. And that came because we've not seen the former president really involved with the PDP perhaps since he left office. Is he still a member of the PDP, and what role really is he playing in the midst of all this chaos?
Well, I don't think the former president has left the PDP. I think even the Bayelsa wing of the party where he registered has come out to say that he's still their member, and that the APC in Bayelsa has also come out to say he has not registered with them. So I do not know, where those issues of whether he was going to contest or not came in, although there were speculations in the newspaper, but I still leave them in the realm of speculation.
All right.
So, but if he's still in the PDP, then where does he stand in all of this? What's his role? As a leader of the party, what role is he playing?
Well, like I said to you, you have to engage somebody. You have to involve someone before he can come out to participate in certain things. If you don't engage him, you don't give him any assignment.
Well, I would like to take you up on that. I mean, as a bona fide member of the party, and not just anyone, former president, does he really need to be called or coerced to intervene if there's a crisis?
There is no need for any coercion, but he can be invited. Now, if you are not invited, what will you come and do? Would you just summon people and say, come and see me and come and hold a meeting with me? This is how, if you resolve the matter, who are you going to communicate with? If you are able to resolve the matter, are you going to tell the national chairman if the decision is against him? So he has to be involved. That means to say he has to be given the mandate that any decision that comes out of the discussion will be acceptable to both parties.
Is it really, because of invitation that was not extended, or is it because of the history between the former president and the current presidential candidate of the PDP, Atiku Abubakar? I mean, they were at one point in time contesting for the same seat. And so we've seen that in the past, they were not the best of friends and all that. Could that be playing a part in this?
You see, there is where politics stops, relationship and friendship will continue. Now, the issue of politics will not jeopardize their camaraderie or their friendship. The fact of the matter is that if there is anybody that the former president will be angry with, is even President Muhammadu Buhari, who took over from him. However, they are still best of friends. So politics has already done its own. He is still communicating with President Muhammad Buhari and interacting with him. So I don't see that as any issue as to warrant them to have any crisis.
So,
all right, we are seeing pockets of violence in certain places. The presidential candidate of the PDP in Kaduna, in Borno, we understand that there were attacks, on the campaigns and everything. I'm just wondering, with this kind of atmosphere, how will campaigns look like in the G5 states, where you have these governors, of the integrity group, the presidential campaign of the PDP in Rivers State, say, for instance? How is it going to play out?
Well, I don't want to, bother myself pontificating over something that is yet to come. I believe that when we get to the bridge, we will know how to cross it.
But are you concerned that it could be truncated?
I do not even envisage any of such. The fact of the matter is, in the G5 states, Atiku has been there very recently and met with the elders of the group. The governor was there. Ogwanyu was there in the meeting. So I do not see any problem.
Well,
perhaps it is something that is being hyped from the
we saw the governor of Rivers State a couple of days ago saying emphatically that the chairman of the PDP cannot lead him to a campaign, and that he made some allegations against the chairman of the party. Did you see that video?
Yeah, I did.
So in that case, that means that because if there's going to be campaign in Rivers State, the chairman of the party will have to be there. So how is that going to play out?
Well, if there is going to be campaigns in Rivers State and the national chairman is there and Governor Wike decides not to be there, would still not stop the campaign.
Governor Wike appears to have a strong hold on the PDP in that state. Do you think that campaign will be successful?
You see, you will not understand the strength of a person until there is an election. The strength of a person is not meaning that when you gather a lot of people in a particular place and you address them, that means everybody there is your own. It is when the election comes, that is when you know who is who in the state. And Atiku Abubakar has a lot of people supporting him in Rivers State. And Rivers State is a PDP state, and you cannot swim against the tide.
Is it really a PDP state with the emergence of people like Peter Obi now that political observers believe is going to be taken away from the votes of the PDP?
Well, I don't want to even belabor myself thinking of somebody who has not been tested in an election.
All right.
So if I cannot begin to say Peter Obi will win Rivers when he has never been tested in an election. So to me, and with the available facts on ground.
Yeah, but with the dynamics of the 2023 election, with the dynamics of the 2023 election, it's becoming more and more difficult to actually predict and say, oh, this state is an APC state, or this state is a PDP state. If you move to Kano, for instance, if you move to Kano, for instance, you have a Kwankwaso there who have a stronghold in Kano, right? So you really cannot say that, oh, Kano is an APC state, and all of that. So those are the dynamics that I'm looking at.
Okay, let me tell you something. You see, there are certain states politically that the voters are highly sophisticated. With Kwankwaso in PDP, Buhari has been winning Kano since time immemorial.
All right, Elijah, please hold your thought. We need to go for a short break. We need to go for a short break. We'll go for a short break now. When we return, the discussion continues. Please stay. Welcome back. You're still watching Daybreak on Trust Television. So, Alhaji, continue from where you stopped.
Okay, so like I said, there are 2 states in the north that you will give them that sophistication. The voters are highly sophisticated. They vote their mind. Kwankwaso was a governor in Kano State, and in a second tenure, he even chided Shekarau, and Shekarau came out, contested against him, and defeated him, an incumbent. He defeated him. Again, since Buhari started, his politicking in the north, in Kano, the voters have always voted Kano, even when Kwankwaso is in a different political party. Kwankwaso has supported Obasanjo in 2003, but the Kano voters voted for. So for Kano voters, you should give it to them.
But don't forget how keenly contested the 2019 election was in Kano State gubernatorial election.
Yeah, but also don't forget that
the margin was so tight. It was very, very close. So if you look at that, would you still say that the Kwankwaso doesn't have that?
You see, the issue of Kano in 2019, if you had listened to Najatu Muhammad, she said they all came together. It was not a Kwankwasia matter. They all came together. Najatu is well known as an APC person. They all came together because they wanted to remove Ganduje. So it was a coalition of a lot of groups that came to remove Ganduje in the gubernatorial election. So it still doesn't add up. Now going back to Bauchi.
Are you going to have that kind of coalition in the next year? Election?
I don't know, but at least this is one thing that happened. Like I said in Bauchi. Bauchi is such a, you can see that they voted all members of state assembly and then voted a governor of PDP. So again, Bauchi has always voted PRP as senator. Anybody they like, they vote.
But these are peculiar cases. They don't translate into every other place, like Rivers, for instance.
That is why I told you that Rivers is a PDP state.
Yes, but they do not have that kind of attitude to elections like you pointed out in Bauchi and in Kano.
So if Rivers State has a mindset, has always been having a mindset of voting for a political party, what do you think now will change the mindset? One governor?
In the past, they have always gone with their governor, either way.
Do you know that the most popular person, I'll give you an example, that a governor was sitting, and he didn't want Wike, but because Rivers is PDP, Amechi had to give way, and Wike won. Amechi went to APC, and Wike won the election, and he was the governor.
But this time around,
and also that in Akwa Ibom State, Akpabio is the most popular person, but he has, because Akwa Ibom is completely PDP. The ties didn't fulfill.
You are taking away the incumbent factor. The governor is a PDP man, so it's a different.
I'm giving you different scenarios, even if you are coming from any angle.
All right, we've been talking about the G5 states, like you keep insisting, even though they are now integrated group. In Imo State, there's a little problem there. Yesterday, there was a protest even to the headquarters where supporters of the former governor, Ihedioha, were complaining that they were not carried along in the campaign council. Now, isn't that also a minus for your campaigns?
No, it is not. That is a fight for inclusion. Once somebody is fighting for inclusion, it means that they are all part and parcel of the same organization. So there is no minus there. That's a plus.
So it's just about 90 days to the election. How prepared are you for the battle ahead?
Well, I have looked at all our outings, and I can beat my chest to say that we are the party to beat in 2023. And our preparation is very legendary. We are preparing so well, and we are not making so much noise about our preparation, but we are going about it meticulously. And I assure you that by the grace of God, in May 2023, we shall escort Atiku to the Aso Rock Presidential Villa as the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
How would you rate your campaign so far? Because we have seen attacks on your, there have been stories of attacks on the convoy of your candidate in some states.
These are the machinations of our political opponents. They want to bring our campaign down, but they are unsuccessful. Our campaigns has always been successful. Did you hear that there was no large gathering or large crowd in any of our campaigns? These are things done to truncate it, but they cannot, because the people are with the PDP.
There are those who will argue that it's really not about the turnout of the numbers in terms of the campaigns. It's about the real elections. There are those who say, well, you sometimes will have the same people turn up for the campaigns of the APC, the same crowd will turn up for the campaigns of the PDP and the rest of them. So it's not really a good, thing to use that as a basis to determine whether the party is successful or not.
I cannot determine that, whether those same people are the ones going to APC campaign and so forth and so on. All I know is that our party mobilized our supporters from every local government, and that is, the crux of the matter. And for your information, our party is resolute, well prepared, and that the people are determined to ensure that, we get the mandate.
Is your party really speaking to the issues that affect the people at the moment? In today's paper, I saw your candidate saying that he was going to implement everything that Khan said. However, a lot of people would say, instead of saying he's going to implement what has been given to him, Nigerians will want to hear and hear more of what he intends to do and how he intends to accomplish those things.
Okay, let me tell you this. Now, politics, there are pressure groups, and pressure groups in politics and political campaigns are also looking at their own interest. So you factor other interests into one particular interest. Perhaps our party has, our manifesto, but other interest groups will also come up with what they want how they want the country to look like before they can give you their block votes. And if you see that it falls within our own manifesto, you accept. And so that is what our presidential candidate has done. He has already given, a pathway into his. He said he's going to restructure Nigeria. He's going to ensure that the economy is in perfect order. He's going to, ensure security, education, and of course, other tertiary matters, which forms his reset agenda. And so, even the devolution of powers, police reforms, and so, they are all part and parcel of, but you can take so many things as a government because you are going to implement so many key things when you come into governance.
All right. Thank you so much for coming to the Break Show this morning and sharing and giving us more insight about your party, the PDP. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our guest is a chieftain of the PDP. He is Umar Sani, talking to us about the conflict within the People's Democratic Party and the way forward. And that's our show for today. In case you have missed, you can always catch up across all our social media platforms and also watch us live on YouTube. I am Ayuba Ilya. Thank you for joining. Join the show again tomorrow for another time.
Thank you for welcoming us into your homes this morning. Join us same time, same station tomorrow. My name is Stella Iyaji, and do have a very pleasant day.